Just about ready.
Okay.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Town of Ramapo Town Board meeting. This is the Town Board meeting of January 25th, 2012. And we'll start the meeting off with our clerk, Christian Sampson, and calling of the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Councilman Withers?
Present.
Councilman Ullman?
Here.
Councilman Friedman?
Here.
Councilman Logan? Councilwoman Logan?
Here.
Supervisor St. Lawrence?
Here. I'd like to ask Councilman Pat Withers to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
The first item that we're going to do tonight is going to be item number 3 on the agenda, personnel, and I'd like to now call up our Director of Personnel, Linda Condon.
Good evening. Item 3A is a resolution to establish the position of courier.
Moved by
Withers?
Councilman Withers, seconded by
Friedman.
Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item 3B is a resolution to appoint Baruch Adams, courier, probationary status, effective January 25th, 2012.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by
Logan.
Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item 3C is a resolution to appoint Sandra Howells, Provisional Information Services Assistant 1, effective January 30th, 2012.
Moved by
Logan.
Councilwoman Logan, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Sandy, come on up. So we want to turn around and say hello to everybody.
Thank you, cutie pie.
Linda, we had another one.
My last item is item 3D, and it's a resolution to appoint Melinda Young, provisional real property appraiser in the town of Rampo.
Moved by
Withers?
Councilman Withers, seconded by
Logan.
Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Linda. Michael, you had a...
If we can move to 2H on the agenda, this follows in order, at least topically. This is a resolution which results from 2 persons leaving the town attorney's office. That would be Wendy Gdansky and Linda Passman. We are fortunate to have had an applicant to the office, a Heather G. Denoya, who is here tonight. She grew up in Suffern, now lives in Park Ridge, and this resolution will appoint her as a consultant to help the town attorney's office in defense of litigation, trial preparation, and related matters.
And so actually she'll be performing the function of 2 people now, and
That's correct.
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And Heather, I believe, just graduated from law school as well.
That's correct. She's a relatively recent law school graduate. She's admitted to practice law in the states of Connecticut, New York, and New Jersey. She will be doing a variety of tasks. The fact that she is an attorney was not an essential criteria for her taking the job, but it's certainly a very big plus for my office that she is. So she'll be helping Scott's office, the assessor's office, and my office largely in preparation of tax certiorari proceedings, and as the board knows, we have more of those cases than any other township in the state of New York outside of Long Island. So it's a very active portion of our practice. It's also one where many municipalities hire outside counsel to handle. We do that inside, except for very few cases. So that will be a primary function of hers, as well as helping out with litigation generally and a number of other functions that will be necessary.
Oh,
So-
fantastic. And a graduate of Quinnipiac College at law school. And also, and I know this is not the reason why Pat Withers is going to be voting for her, she also attended college at Trinity College in Dublin.
Oh, yeah. That's very important.
Those are the fighting what, Pat?
Fighting Irish?
Okay, motion by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. Congratulations, Heather. You have to turn around and give a wave to everybody. Welcome aboard, Heather. Okay. Also on tonight's agenda, Council, we have a public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Program for 2012.
That's correct. That's the first order of business on the public hearing agenda. The advertising for that hearing was not done by the town, it's done by the Community Development Office. We've advised that all the necessary prerequisites for the hearing to commence have been satisfied, so we can open up that hearing.
Anybody here that would like to speak in this public hearing on the Community Development Block Grant Program? Raise your hand. Seeing no hands, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing by Councilman Withers, second by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. We also, Council, have a second public hearing scheduled for 8:05, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. If I may first read into the record the notice of public hearing, which reads as follows. Notice is hereby given by the Town Board of the Town of Ramapo that pursuant to the provisions of the Town Law of the State of New York, a public hearing will be held at 8:00 p.m. at the Ramapo Town Hall, 237 Route 59, Suffolk, New York, 10901, on the 25th day of January 2012, to consider the adoption of a local law entitled, quote, "A local law amending local law number 10-2004, the zoning law, with respect to accessory apartments, schools, dormitories, and the R-15 MR zoning district." The local law was published and is available at the town clerk's office. Notice is hereby further given that all interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard. Admitted as part of the record of the public hearing should be the affidavit of publication. It should be the affidavit of posting. Also, we've received a recommendation by the Planning Board after referral that they have approved and recommend the adoption of the proposed changes. We have also received 4 different letters from the County Planning Department pursuant to the GML review. Even though there's one local law that's proposed, it has 4 different components, and they decided to submit a separate letter as to each component. Those letters should also be made part of this evening's record. With that, Mr. Supervisor, we have our planning consultant, John Lang of Frederick P. Clark Associates, who will commence the hearing by giving a presentation about the nature of the proposed zoning law changes and his recommendation that they be approved.
Okay. Mr. Lang?
Supervisor, members of the board, our office was asked by the town attorney's office to investigate a variety of different alternatives to update the zoning amendments that we did in 2004. And working with the building department and CDRC, we've coming across some problems that we needed to solve. And the first of these was revolving around the accessory units. Back in 2004, we created the accessory units to expand the affordable housing and make it easier for a person to buy a house and rent out part of it. And now we're going to propose an option there that would make this a saleable unit as opposed to a rental. All of the same parameters that apply to the accessory units would apply here as well. There's really, all of the changes that we're talking about are administrative or procedural. They don't change the zone. They don't change the density. They don't change anything except how we act and react with them. The second item was temporary modular classrooms. There are currently no regulations in the zoning that regulate temporary trailers, especially for classrooms. So what we've put in place is a procedure that will streamline this, that if you have a full school application going in, you can apply for, in a 15-day period, and get a review for the temporary trailers. The full set of plans will show where the temporary trailers will go. Along with that, in order to ensure that they'll be withdrawn when the school is finished, is a bond or a surety document that will allow for the removal of those trailers at the appropriate time. The third issue is a pretty standard one, the number of students allowed in a dormitory room. The number of students in a dormitory is regulated by the state building code and also by fire code. And basically, it requires 50 square feet of habitable space per student. We're not going to change that at all. We're just going to say that whatever the room size is that conforms with that we allow 4 instead of 2. And in the 10 years I've been here, I don't think they've had an application that requested for anything less than 4. So this is to really accommodate the community. The last change involves the R15 MR district, where ever commonly known as the Bates and Horton district. And in there, with the multiple residences that were created, there were some single-family homes that would be allowed to convert to 2 families, provided they join the homeowners association. The rationale behind that was so that the individual homeowners would be covered under the same maintenance that the multifamily residences would be covered under. And it was intended to do the maintenance on the properties and to also do the maintenance on the road, which was a private road. Now the roads have become public, so there's no reason to do that anymore. So we proposed some landscaping requirements that would do the same thing, and the town has ample legislation to go and enforce the landscaping regulations. So with that, that's a quick overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, and you're going to be here for the comments for the public as well? Great.
Certainly.
So,
Mr. Lang, just a couple of things. You also assisted in the preparation of a review of a proposed negative declaration under SECA with regard to the proposed adoption of the zoning law amendments. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and a copy of the proposed negative declaration and a full environmental assessment form was again prepared with your advice and consent. Is that right?
That's correct. We
Okay.
really did not have to do that because these are really type 2 actions that do not require environmental review. We did that to be diligent.
And in any event, it was the conclusion that the changes don't result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And copies of those have been distributed to the board and should also be deemed part of the record.
okay. Any other comments now, or do people on the board want to hear from the public?
I'd rather hear from the public.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lang. And we have 2 people who would like to speak. Do you have any particular order, Bruce? Or okay.
It's Robert Romanowski, 177 Maple Avenue, Muncie. I just want to comment tonight on the proposal to permit 4 students per room in a dormitory in the town of Ramapo. Yeshivas and colleges are institutions of higher learning. This zoning amendment should only apply to renovated or new dormitories constructed after this date. The town needs to set requirements for a dormitory room that will house 4 students. It should be large enough to instill an academic atmosphere to those who live there. The town needs to set a minimum square footage for each room to allow 4 people to live comfortably, as this room will also be used for academics as well as sleeping. Each room should provide 4 closets, 1 for each student to store their clothing and other necessary items. There should be ample room for 4 desks so that each student will have their own space for academic work and studying. Each desk should provide lighting and above-desk storage for books. There has to be the proper room for 2 bunk beds to accommodate 4 students, and there needs to be 1 window for a view to the outside and as a secondary function as an emergency exit. If this is not included in the proposal that you plan on voting on tonight, I ask that you hold off and incorporate them so that students residing in dormitories in the town of Ramapo will have an enjoyable learning experience away from home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Mr. Levine.
Voluntary request for a time limit.
You have all the time you want.
I thought it was up.
Okay, you're done. Anyone else? No, go
Bruce
ahead, Bruce.
Levine, 9 Robin Hood Road, Montebello, New York, 10901, right? Just very quickly, the Bates-Horton piece is perfectly reasonable. Leave it just the way it is. The modular units for schools is also good. The only thing I would ask you, and I don't think it's a significant change, is just to make it clear that when you're doing the site plan, that it definitely includes internal traffic safety, because the location of these means that there are going to be walkways and pathways from classroom to classroom, modular classroom. So the internal traffic safety is important, and also the fire safety isn't just merely about the building itself. They're all going to be fire safe because you buy them. You wouldn't be able to buy one if it wasn't, or rent one if it wasn't fire safe. But it also talks about, you should include the fire safety in terms of the impact on the entire district. Is there enough? How close is it to a main? Is that something that's going to be required? But otherwise, it's a good idea. It's necessary, and it avoids all the strange perambulations that people have to make sometimes to make it work. The dormitory. This one does give me some cause. I agree with Mr. Romanowski that 4 in a room is an issue. I do understand that there are going to be bigger rooms because of the state, and there will be fire safety because of the state laws involved in this. But I am concerned with especially younger children in 4 in a room being able to really study. And I did raise the issue of the supervision to the board at the workshop, and I believe you should be able to find a way to do that either directly tonight or if you have to do a revision. But I do think that 4 in a room is a lot for certain age groups. And in my own investigation of schools, including the high school I went to, University High School, which has a dormitory, 2 in the room is actually the norm. I'm very concerned about 12, 13-year-olds, 4 in a room, as to whether or not that's really manageable in an educational way. It's one thing if they're above 16. So I'd urge you to make some kind of distinction there, at least by age. But otherwise, it's, and the supervision piece, I believe you're going to take care of, so I won't address it. The secondary apartments is a sort of a bigger issue. There's sort of 2 issues. One is the mix of rental and ownership affordable housing that you're creating. And rental housing, to some extent by its nature in our community, tends to be relatively more affordable than home ownership. And because people can come in and they can be there for a year or 2 if they lose their job. They don't haven't invested their life savings and so on. The country has looked at what's happened in the past and has realized that there's a greater need for rental housing than we used to think. That not everybody has the means or capacity to own, even though I love ownership. And my main concern is that that this would allow, as I understand it, any existing and any future ones to be turned into home ownership. And I believe you should create a mix. I don't care if you do it by, in this case, I believe you should do personally, I believe you should hold off on this piece. If you can, do a study of the existing number of rental units in these zones versus, how many actual apartment buildings there actually are with rental units in these zones to make sure you have a proper mix, and then decide how to do it. You can decide that any new construction you can just set a date arbitrarily. This has been done many times. Anything built before 2006 remains the way it is, let's say. Anything after, that's a 5-year back window, basically, because it's January. That would enable you to have at least try to maintain a mix of home ownership and rental, because the community in these areas needs both. I hope you realize that, and that a mix is better than hoping that the market will provide, because it doesn't necessarily happen, because the people, which brings me to the second question, second point, which is primarily that you have the rules of this are very, very sparsely drawn. And I know a lot about affordable housing as some members of the board, and it's very important to have more detailed rules before you pass this. Specifically, who's going to decide who's going to come into these? Is the owner of the building or the owner of the apartment, meaning the person who's renting now, going to decide who that person is? Is there any kind of wait list? Is there any kind of lottery? How is this going to be done? Is it just going to be done purely by doing that? It may not actually achieve the real ends you're seeking in creating home ownership opportunities for people who have no such ownership, as opposed to allowing young families who maybe have relationships with owners to obtain that housing, as opposed to a broader availability to the entire community. So I think that's an issue. The 20 years is just absurd. It will go like this. You're creating something that's going to should last for a very long time. I would urge that you double that to 40 years. I was looking at the CPI measure of change, and I had a concern I realized that works, that's sort of a double-edged sword. Right now, inflation's so low, we think that's great. It's less than the 3% that's been used in other places sometimes, not necessarily wisely. And if you do CPI and suddenly we have 5 years from now we have a burst of inflation, those prices are going to go skyrocketing. So what I would again urge you to do with this piece is pull it back, take a look at it. There's nothing wrong with doing it. Just do it right. And again, I would urge you again that mix and doing these rules. Maybe you do the CPI, but no more than 2.5% or something like that per year over a 40-year horizon rather than a 20-year horizon. And I think that would actually keep affordability for the long term. Remember, what you do, anything you do with zoning, once you have those units sold, they're not coming back. Once you have the rental, once they no longer have affordability, they're gone. And these areas will be fully built probably in the next decade. So you will not have a second shot at it. Right? That's it.
Thank you very much.
Close.
Ms. Levine, may I just ask you a question? I know at the workshop earlier this week, you raised the question about supervision. Now, reviewing our proposed law and our existing law, the town has no regulation whatsoever about the number of adult supervisors in a dormitory. I'm assuming you must be referring to state law that governs that, or?
I thought I saw it right in the law. I saw for every 50... Is that in the state law? For every 50 rooms, right? 50 students? If it's per students, I have no problem with it. Because students, it takes care of itself. We've never regulated that? Then I stand corrected on that issue.
So,
I thought I saw it in the law, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And that's not, that the primary thing is to make sure that as you increase the number of kids, you make sure
increase the supervision.
you stay up with the supervision. So if I'm wrong about that, I can stand corrected on that, no problem.
And Bruce, I think the board understands the concerns that you raised, and I think they share many of them. There is, of course, the philosophical question from the town standpoint as to how much the town should interfere in educational decisions that perhaps should best be left to the administrators of the schools. And I think that's something that the board has struggled with. We're certainly concerned with making sure whatever we permit is safe, complies with all building and fire codes, and provides an atmosphere which is conducive to good living and education. And certainly, we think the planning board would share that concern. But there's a question as to how much we should interfere with those other educational decisions by those people who are perhaps better able than the board to make them. So just so you understand what we've been discussing and what our concerns are, but your issues are not taken lightly, but there is a question as to how much the town should interfere with those decisions.
I can just say this. When I was 12, okay, some people called me a wilde chaya. Wild animal is the Jewish, direct English translation, but it means, shall we say, a rambunctious youngster, right? If you put 4 people like me in the same room at that age, not a good idea, right? And, we're assuming that, people are watching this. I mean, there is a reality to this. I mean, it's one thing if you're having people, who are 16, 17 years old, doing this. It's when you're doing younger kids, and I don't even know how young they go in this town. But I do have the concern. I understand all the other safety issues are being met. Supervision is met. That's fine. But I think you do set the rules, and you do have a responsibility to the children and to the schools. And I'm not sure that. Let's say you're getting new construction, and you can say you're going to build more space, but you're going to have more per room. There might actually be cost values to that, which I don't mean to denigrate. But the fact is that most nonprofit institutions and private schools are have great difficulty financially today. And if they could save $50,000, $100,000 by having a bathroom for, I'm making it up, a bathroom for 20 people instead of a bath, and they can now do it a bathroom for 40 people because of the structures of these spaces. And the number of students, they might very well do that. And I think, I do think Mr. Romanowski is 100% correct that it does have an impact on education. And I just am not aware of any national standards. I did, after the workshop, tried to reach my nephew, who's very involved in yeshiva education over his years, but I was unable to reach him to find out what the standard was nationwide. I really think you should look at it and consider that.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Next, Mr. Gross. Good evening.
Town Supervisor.
Are
you here to represent the village, or are you here on your own?
We're doing a private business now.
So, but just wanted to let everybody at home know that...
Me and Bruce came together.
That's right. That Mr. Gross is a trustee.
Yes.
In
Thank
the...
I'm here to represent nobody.
The trustee in the Village of Spring Valley. Yeah, go ahead.
So you are
I'm not talking for the village, no. I'm not here for village
Joseph
business.
Gross, and your address is?
My name is Joseph Gross. I live 62 North Cole Avenue, Spring Valley, New York.
Thank you.
I'm here to talk about the accessory apartments. I want to congratulate the board and the town supervisor and the legal department for bringing up such a great idea. I wish we can do it in our village. I don't know if people know the numbers. If it can be a big breakthrough if we can get accessory apartments buying under $200,000. It means people are going to pay cheaper to own a house than to rent an apartment. Apartment rentals, there is a lot of apartment rentals, but there's a lot of money. It's very expensive. Apartment rentals are in the range of $1,300, $1,400 minimum to get this, and with this program to get accessory, to get accessory apartments, you most probably get much, much less. And I think we should do no regulations to it. It should be regular like selling a house. When you build a house, it's two-family, it's just an accessory apartment, just keeping it sell it. Whoever wants to buy it, who can come up with the money to buy it. It's much easier to get a mortgage for under $200,000 than to get it for $400,000. As you guys know how it goes with even the affordable housing, how hard it gets a $300 and something thousand mortgage. Under $200,000, there's much better programs, I know that, and so I want to congratulate you on that. But on dormitory issues, I just want to mention, I was not a chayeru. It just mean, whatever how you said, I wasn't called wilde chayer. I wasn't called like that, and we slept 4 kids.
It's Gaelic.
What?
It's Gaelic.
We slept 4 boys, and I went many years in dormitory. We slept 4 kids, and it was fine. And I think the regulations to that should be done to the supervisor, the administrator of the school. And I don't think the government to get involved how to run the schools, the private schools, or whatever dormitories it is. So the main thing, I just want to congratulate you and push you for that. And I think it's a thing that the people in the community needed it. And it's going to be, I'm most probably the people don't know about it, that is a public hearing, because people will come here, believe me, we've packed the room because people do need it. They do want to buy houses, but unfortunately they can't afford it with that numbers. Thank you and good night. Good
Thank
luck.
you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Gross.
I just wanted to comment on Mr. Gross, I can't say trustee here, and obviously there's different viewpoints for each thing. A lot of people did contact me about the public hearing, and not to discredit anybody, this is a win-win for everybody, so I don't think there's a need for people to come out to voice their opinion for it. As, you know, the board has heard from John Lang, I've just spoken with John Lang, the board was aware of that, you know, about that there's no environmental impact with the school trailers or things like that. It was a win-win situation for all. So I felt there's people to come out at night when they're busy. I mean, it's not 100% necessary. But yes, you're right. If there would be a lot of objection to it, there would be a lot of people for it as well. But it seems to be a win-win for the whole town.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gross. Anyone else from the public who would like to speak? Motion to close the public hearing by
Withers.
Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. Does anybody in the board have any comments? I do want to, just a couple things. I want to thank the comments from all 3 speakers tonight. And I think that Mr. Lang in his presentation made it clear that this would not in any way supersede any of the laws for fire laws, or as far as students. I think you said they needed 50 square feet per student, so obviously then now the rooms would have to be a minimum of 200 square feet, and I think Mr. Romanowski made some good points about having the proper space for desks and having, I think, also a window for a second means of egress, and I would imagine that may even be in the fire code. I'm not. It is in the fire code. And I appreciated Mr. Levine's comments on the different issues. I know as he started off talking about the Bates and Horton, that's a project that for many, many years was a sore point in the town of Ramapo. It wasn't being built out. It wasn't being built out under what the current laws were, and because of that, in the comprehensive plan, we were able to craft something that has turned out to be something that is very architecturally pleasing and giving a lot of new housing opportunities, and has become a great development. Very clean, and now the roads are dedicated, and it's a very safe, nice neighborhood, and so this is definitely needed for that. As far as Mr. Levine brings up a good point, I think, on the modular homes, or the modular trailers for the schools. All of those trailers are meet the fire safety codes on the internal, and it should be, people should be very cognizant that the site plan, the external plan, is something that is functional, and I don't know if we need to tweak that, or if I want me to put an amendment in of anything, or if anybody else has any other amendments or other issues, but any amendment that would make that something that the planning board would review.
Well, our own site plan rules, as well as state law, basically list a variety of criteria that must be considered by the planning board in reviewing the site plan, and the internal circulation would be one of those. So I think we all appreciate the concerns addressed by Mr. Levine, But I do believe those will be automatically reviewed by the planning board when they do their initial site plan review.
So that would be reviewed by the planning board, the CDRC, it would be reviewed then by the fire department that was servicing that area, would make their comments too as well.
That's
onto that
correct.
site portion.
And, we are fortunate to have a fire inspector who is extremely competent and certainly not bashful in expressing his views. And I think everyone in the county has learned to respect his opinions about fire safety. So I'm certainly very confident that if our fire code officials approve the plan, it's about as good as it's going to get.
And I think we spoke about the supervision of the students. So at this time, I'll open up anybody in the board.
Right.
Mr. Withers.
I too appreciate the comments. I was a colleague with Bruce's in the county legislature in '07. Bruce, I do appreciate you coming to the workshop and allowing. The public is watching right now, but doesn't realize that we had a long discussion and dialogue. So that's why we didn't really comment back and forth. I appreciate you working with Councilman Ullman. Again, my condolence on the passing of your mother. But when he was visiting you at Shiva with your mother on the passing, it was nice to see that we can work out some differences and some concerns. I just want to, on a personal matter, say things that I too was a young man at one time, 15, 16 years ago, trying to buy a house. And at the time, it was a difficult time, like Mr. Gross says, is that we did start off, my wife Deirdre and I started off renting. And our dream was always to own our own home. And that dream is for a lot of citizens within living in this town of Ramapo. I think the board has heard a lot of concerns back and forth, but I do believe that I will support this motion tonight after we vote on it. I do remember when Deirdre and I were stretched out to our max when qualifying for a loan and a mortgage. And back then it was just a little under $200,000. I could not imagine. I would hate to be a young couple trying to afford a home nowadays and starting off to start their family. I believe I would probably be locked into renting my entire life. And it's a nice thing that the town of Ramapo is doing. I believe watching the State of the Union address last night with the President Obama is exactly what he was looking to do, bring more home ownerships to younger couples who could afford it. And I believe under the supervisor's leadership, and I believe that's exactly what we just did tonight, to implement the President's wishes and continue forward for a better America and a better town of Ramapo.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other comments? Councilman Ullman.
Again, I want to thank Bruce Levine for coming out. Just like I mentioned before, people are busy, and I know you're busy, and I appreciate you coming out, and Mr. Romanowski, the same thing, and Mr. Gross, and everyone else that came out to speak. I hate speaking publicly. I'm sure it probably was hard. I do want to urge the board, however, to amend this law and vote for it. I think we need to remember that this is going to be free market affordable housing. It's not below market housing. It's pure affordable housing. It's actually creating something. It's taking the entire R15C zone and creating that zone into an affordable zone. The entire zone now becomes an affordable zone. If you want to build an R15C allowed condo, and you want to sell it, you are required to make it now affordable. It's taking the entire zone and doing that. At the same time, it's not increasing the density. A lot of times when people have to build, in order for the developer or the builder to be worth it, they have to give leeway so that it could afford to do affordable housing. But this doesn't do that. This just takes the entire R15C and makes it affordable. At the same time, as Mr. Levine mentioned, I'd like to call you Bruce because you're my friend, but you still deserve the title, Mr. Levine. As Mr. Levine mentioned, you have to still keep this mixture of rental, and that's why we did do that. It doesn't have to be owner-occupied, so that it could allow rentals, and at the same time, it puts a mandated in the deed that doesn't allow you to sell it more than a certain amount, which is under $200,000. Regarding the CPI changing, Mr. Mayor, this is what I'm trying to explain to you. Even the existing R15C houses that are built, that they technically could change over to sell, it's not an easy process. It's more for construction that was just done or new construction. As Mr. Romanowski said, on certain things it should be for now and the future. Is it possible to be done? Yes, but there's some fire safety issues that need to be done. It has to be financially worth it for the person to do it as well. New construction can be built that way right away. so that A, does leave the rental market available, that there's still, not everyone's going to convert, and as Councilman Logan said, if the landlord has a tenant that's paying the rent on time, why would he want to change it over? So it does give that mixture that's needed. Regarding the schools, I think the supervisor addressed, so, and Bates Horton, I think is a wonderful thing, so I'm going to ask the board, and again, I want to thank Councilman Logan as in the planning board. I know you worked hard for this to help this and to find the right formula, so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Do you want to make any comments?
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Councilman Ullman. And under the supervisor's direction, of course, and my colleagues now on the town board, I think that, once again, the town of Ramapo is taking the initiative forward to help the constituents and the residents in the town to lighten that burden and to find innovative ways for housing. And as you know, I am certainly a housing advocate, and I believe that the most important thing is for everyone to have a decent place to live. We have 3 generations living together because of the economic stress and the housing problems that we've had in this country. And this is one way of alleviating that and giving the young people a leg up on having some kind of ownership and an investment in their property. And in that way, it also helps their parents who are ready to move on to move out into a senior housing environment. So I think that, once again, we're breaking through, and I want to thank the planning board members also, and the CDRC team, and Frederick P. Clark for working so hard on making this happen. Thank you.
I would also like to just add to you, Councilwoman Logan. Again, welcome to the town board.
Thank you.
And I know you're going to be an incredible asset, because I had the ability to see you work in the Spring Valley for affordable housing and be an advocate for people,
Yes.
so that they could have good, safe places to live. But I also witnessed it firsthand in the, as a board member with you in the Rockland County Sewer District Number 1, where you worked all over the county to be able to make projects and understand that affordable housing projects needed waivers, and were able to, and you sponsored some of the waivers that would make affordable housing affordable by waiving the fees at times for
Yes.
projects, some in this town, some in Clarkstown, some in the village of Spring Valley. And so I was always able to see the work that you were able to accomplish. And I think your work on the planning board, it's going to be very difficult for the planning board to fill your shoes.
They'll be fine.
And you did shepherd this legislation through the planning board, working with Councilman Ullman, and I think you two make a great team when it comes to planning board issues, getting out the word to people why we're doing something, and as Councilman Withers said, we want things to be affordable. So I commend you on all layers of government that you've worked at, and thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor.
Councilman Ullman.
I do want to mention, Councilwoman Logan and I have more than that in common. We both went to schools that had 4 people in the room for dormitory. Just wanted to say that.
I thought you were going to say brother and sister.
I thought they were going to say they shared a dorm room, but
I'm not that young. I do want to address again, Mr. Levine, because I got sidetracked. I apologize. I was mostly talking about the CPI, and then I got sidetracked with a different topic. As mentioned before, this is primarily for newer construction or new construction to happen. The CPI was counted into that for the simple reason is this is not a development that you can have tons of developers building. We're not talking about building, blocks or apartment buildings. It's a single condo unit. People are going to be building it. They have to be able to recuperate the cost. Why should they build it if not? The cost of the construction is going up as well. So from 5 years from now, someone's going to be building it. The cost has gone up the same as the CPI went up. Counting and very thoroughly, and I appreciate you coming to the workshop because that gave us time to dwell on it and to look into it and to have a good open discussion. I am going to suggest a slight amendment that just actually, I wouldn't even call it an amendment, is to change the current owner occupancy requirement that applies to accessory apartment units so that it keeps this rental purchase balance. And I thank you, Mr. Levine, for that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll move it, and second
second
by
it.
Pat Withers, and I'll accept that amendment.
Wait a second. Are we going to close, we have to close the
Public hearing.
Yeah, we will have to close the public hearing first. Thank you.
Okay, because it's moved and seconded.
He's quiet over there, but there's a reason he's there.
Thank you.
Any other comments? And would a
Yeah,
motion to, Councilman Friedman?
Not yet.
Not to miss the opportunity to speak?
I'm not going to let everyone else speak and then not say anything. I mean, that's ridiculous.
Jack, you taping this?
There's been a lot of talk about housing, especially as it affects young people, and as one of the youngest people on the town board, I can tell you that there's an incredible crisis for housing, especially for young people. Because of the meltdown of the financial industry, it's impossible, even for a young person who does have a decent income, to get a mortgage to be able to afford to buy a house. I mean, these are national issues. On the local level, we've worked to mitigate those challenges by having affordable housing projects like we do with Elm Street, where we have young families with children, or young couples able to afford and to be able to move into a home right here in the town of Ramapo. There's a great need for much more housing. And I know that Councilwoman Logan can certainly speak to that as a member of the planning board and as a housing and community advocate for so many years. There has been, some of the speakers made note requesting more time to discuss and debate this issue. I would like the members of the public and everyone here to know that this is not something that was taken lightly or made recently. This is an issue that was discussed and debated among this town board, policies that were written and proposed and discussed with residents of our town for a very long time. This is a very cohesive policy. I really want to commend Councilman Ullman for his involvement in this, for the supervisor and the town board, who are all partners in creating this and in working with the people of our town to come up with something that eases the housing crisis that is not only present in the town of Ramapo, but really everywhere else. And with that, I will turn it over.
Okay. And are you requesting a solar panel on every house? Yeah, Councilman Withers, did you want to make a comment?
I'll make a vote to,
Motion to close the public hearing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Now on the main motion, I'll move the main motion and seconded by Councilman Withers as amended by Councilman Ullman. Any other comments on the main motion? Move, second, all those in favor say aye.
We do have to,
Opposed?
okay, we do have to adopt the negative declaration.
Should we do that first?
Yes.
Then what we'll do is I will move the seeker, the neg deck, second by Councilman Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Now on the main motion as amended.
And if I may say, it's the main motion with the one amendment that was suggested by Councilman Ullman, and also the motion will also include the language that has been distributed to each of the board members and discussed, which is an override of the general municipal law review by the county planning department. They actually, each of their reviews recommended the changes with modifications, and in the override language in the proposed resolution before you, we have, I think, what's cogent reasons why those concerns are either addressed or are why they should be overridden. So it's the main motion, subject to the change, which was moved by Councilman Ullman, and subject to the override, which is in the resolution.
Okay? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. The next item on the agenda is going to be the acceptance of the minutes for the organizational meeting of January 11th, 2012.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Council?
Yes, on two, actually, Mr. Supervisor, we can just go back for a moment. We have we do have to vote on the community block grant, but we do need to insert the project name and the funding number. Do we have those available tonight?
I do know that we have West Central Avenue. It was $200,000 for West Central Avenue. That project was our number one, and so we move it with the recommendations from the committee coming down from there.
So we will approve the resolution, and the project to be approved is the West Central Avenue project at a cost not to exceed $200,000.
Yes, and then the other projects, there's a limited amount this year from the county, and we will add on in order all of the requests from the committee.
Very good.
Okay? All right, moved by
Withers?
Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Thank you, Council. Now we'll go to our town council, to our town attorney, Michael Klein.
Thank you. Mr. Supervisor, the first resolution is related to the zoning law amendments which the town board has just passed. This resolution sets fees for the secondary dwelling unit applications. The suggested fee is $750 for the initial application for the conversion, and we're suggesting a fee of $250 when a unit is to be sold and there is a need for a certification from the assessor's office as to what the maximum resale price is, given the CPI calculation.
Okay.
Withers?
Councilman Ullman, seconded. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, just that's to ensure that it stays affordability, that's a certified paper on the price, so that
That's correct, and to make sure that the resales comply with the law, and that will be monitored by our assessor's office.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll move
Moved and seconded. Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
To be in the agenda is a resolution authorizing the town attorney's office to commence in the Ramapo Justice Court or other court of appropriate jurisdiction collection actions to recover insurance reimbursements that have been paid to recipients of ambulance services when those insurance checks should be turned over to the town.
Moved by?
Withers? Oh, sorry.
Moved by Councilwoman Logan, seconded by Councilman Withers. Again, this list, which I do see a lot of times grows shorter all the time, is a list of people that have utilized one of our 5 ambulance corps and have been taken to one of the hospitals and then receive a check directly from their insurance company, and that check should be turned over to the town to help pay for the services. So in this program over the years, it's been very successful, and we try to educate people that when they receive that check from their insurance company, it's really not theirs, and sometimes people need to be pushed a little bit more, and this list is now to pursue. As I say, it looks like about a dozen people now, and it's a much more diminished list here, and we will continue further action on that.
Good.
Moved?
Withers?
Councilman, did we move and second this already?
No.
No? Moved by Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
I'm sorry, Mr. Supervisor, I was
Withers,
distracted.
We noticed that? Councilman Withers and Councilwoman Logan.
Oh, I had that already. It was Logan.
That's how
Withers.
good you are.
Did you vote yet, sir?
Yes, we did.
Thank
It
you.
was unanimous.
It was for your raise, but you didn't hear it.
Yes,
My bad.
Oh, okay.
we take it back.
We have 2 tax certiorari matters on for settlement tonight.
We should give these to Heather.
As of Monday, we will. The first of these is a landowner known as MedPro Condo Associates. This is for tax years 2009, 10, and 11, and this results from an internal appraisal that justifies the reduction.
Moved by?
Withers?
Withers, seconded by? Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
The next one, 2C2 on the agenda, is an exemption matter. This is vacant land which is owned by a nearby congregation, which is used for parking and other purposes related to the synagogue. This is Congregation Berchus Yosef.
Moved by?
Withers?
Councilman Withers, seconded by?
Logan?
Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
We have someone here from the assessor's office. Should we ask him if he concurs? I think we have someone here from the
Moshe
assessor's
Hapsi.
office.
Do you ask him if he concurs?
You
Just wait.
concur, we just did some...
That's okay.
Okay, then I'm in favor for it, thank you.
2D is a change order for Morano Brothers Corporation.
Moved by? Councilman Friedman, seconded by? Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously.
At the last town board meeting, we adopted a resolution which addresses the composition and also the functioning of the Golf Course Advisory Committee. This resolution amends the prior resolution by changing the number of members from 9 to 11, and it further indicates the term of office of each person.
Withers?
And I want to, moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. I want to thank Councilman Withers, who is the liaison to the Golf Committee, for putting in really some new interest into the committee, the structure, the recommendation on the fees, which I think we're going to be having, setting a public hearing on the golf fees that are recommended by Dan Covert. And I also think it's important that we look at this, in these tough times, for ways that we can increase our revenues at the golf course.
Absolutely.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
You segued into the next resolution, which sets a public hearing on February 6th at 8:05 p.m. for the proposed golf course rates for the Spook Rock Golf Course for the year 2012.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
We had a long discussion at workshop with our assessor regarding the next resolution. This is a resolution which will request home rule authority from the state legislature so the town may grant new homeowners a partial exemption. There is an existing law which was passed by the state, but we believe that a new law should be passed which is more applicable to the town of Ramapo, so we can help new homeowners afford home ownership, and we're hoping that the state legislature will adopt what our request.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. I do want to just say that our assessor, Scott Shedler, and I met with Ken Zabrowski, our assembly person. We discussed this legislation. We want to put this home rule request in so that we'll be able to enact it so that it will make home ownership even more affordable by having an exemption for new home buyers. And in this legislation, we're looking to go back, I believe, to March of 2011 to be able to have people that have recently purchased their homes to be able to get that
It
exemption.
would be March of 2012, so it's starting this year.
And Assemblyman Zabrowski will be the sponsor for that?
And Assemblyman Zabrowski, I thought we were going back to 2012, to March of 2012. I mean 2011, 2011.
I just, Mr. Supervisor, I just, again, want to commend the town board on the action they're taking tonight on this. Again, it's in watching the State of the Union address with the President Obama last night. It puts us on path with the nation, and what we're looking to do is to follow our president in home ownership and try to give people incentives to buy. And it's exactly, it's the right thing to do. Again, we're all fortunate on this board to be at a place where we own our homes, but there are many people out there trying to make ends meet and trying to, their life dream is to have their first home, and it's a great thing. It's puts Ramapo on the map, shows that there's leadership in Ramapo and taking initiatives to first buy their own home and do that. So Jack, you could focus on Daniel now.
Yeah. So it goes, the establishment date is...
This is government at work.
I'm going to put you on speaker. You can watch yourself on TV. This is our assessor, Scott. So the establishment date is March of 2011, March 1st, 2011.
Yes, it would be taxable status day, which is March 1st, 2011.
Okay. Thank you very much, Scott.
All right, take care.
Okay. So it was moved by
Withers?
Councilman Withers and seconded by Councilwoman Logan, and the Councilman, I'd like to make that amended to March 1, 2011.
Yes, sir.
Okay, as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
2H we already did. Heather is still here, so...
And we're very proud of you.
and finally,
the only one that's ever done it.
2I, we are changing the town board meeting date from February 8th to February 6th. We had previously scheduled a public hearing for the recodification of the town code for February 6th. This resolution will move that public hearing to February 6th instead of February 8th.
Okay, a motion by Councilwoman Logan, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Okay, we'll move on now to police matters. 4A on the agenda, authorization for the captain to attend the New York State Police Chiefs Annual Training Conference in Syracuse, New York, from May 14th and May 15th.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. For members of the public, I just want to let people know this is a conference on the Amber Alert, and in the Mara Downs case in Hillcrest, where we used an Amber Alert and were able to have the car then identified behind an apartment complex in Spring Valley, where she was tied up and bound and gagged in the trunk at the middle of a hot spell, and we were able to retrieve her safely. During that process, there was a flaw that came up in the notification of Amber Alert, and through the efforts of then Chief of Detectives Brad Wydell, who's now a captain in the police department, he was able to get the Amber Alert put into place in that case, and was able then to have the law changed across the nation as to the ability to access the Amber Alert system. And so he is going to be giving training on this at this conference, and actually will be traveling around to other conferences as well. He was given some awards and some recognitions by the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the New York State Justice Department, and we think that is absolutely wonderful what the police department did that day with Mara Downs, and be able to have her safe after she was kidnapped from her getting off the bus from Sacred Heart School, just a few feet from her house, and was kidnapped and put into the trunk of a car. And so she was saved, and quite frankly, Detective Lieutenant, now Captain Wydell, did a wonderful job in making sure that the Amber Alert system was put into place that day, but now is put into place across the nation under the new rules and guidelines that he's developed. So we're very proud of him on that. So moved and seconded by Logan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. Next is the authorization for captains to attend the New York State Training Directors Conference at Lake Placid on May 16th to 18th.
Actually, Mr. Supervisor, it was contained in item 4A and B together in one resolution.
Okay, so we voted on them and we're good. Okay. Authorization for police officers to be assigned to the Rockland County District Attorney's Office. This is a special program on a special grant received from Tom Zugaby, our district attorney, and we will be putting one of our detectives in his department to work on this. I believe this is white-collar crimes. And do we identify the detective in this, or should we leave that?
I think we should leave it out.
Okay. Moved by? And seconded by? Councilwoman Logan. So it's moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Next item is Finance, our Deputy Director of Finance, Nat Oberman.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. 5 is asking for authorization to move $500 in the town clerk's office from furniture and furnishings to publications to allocate funds for the above increased cost of publications.
Okay, and this was at the request of our town clerk, Christian Sampson?
Yes, sir.
So he could pay for the publications that
Yes,
were
sir.
needed. Okay.
Thank you.
Moved by?
Logan?
Moved by Councilman Logan, second by Councilman Withers. Any questions on this?
Was it bidded out?
I think we should bid it out, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously. You're welcome. And this time is appropriate time, I think, to mention that our town clerk is the first vice president now?
That's right.
The first vice president of the New York State Association of Town Clerks.
All right.
We're proud of you. And if you haven't met the town clerks, you'll meet them at the Association of Towns. they'll be the ones that are having the most fun. The next item on the agenda is a change of the town board meeting date. As we changed the meeting earlier for the public hearing, we are changing at the request of Councilman Ullman, changing the meeting date from February 8th to February 6th. And the workshop will now start at 6:30, and the regular meeting will start at 8 o'clock. And we'll probably start off with the hearing on the Golf Committee. So moved by Councilman Ullman, seconded by Councilman Friedman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Under new business, I will recognize our Director of Purchasing, Mona Montel.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Item 7A on the agenda is in reference to a project that has been ongoing in the town, which the supervisor has been very creative in making sure that it'll happen. The traffic preemption system, along with Councilman Withers and the dedicated staff of our Intergovernmental Relations Coordinator, Michael Riley, we're recommending that we accept the proposal for sound engineering traffic systems in order to purchase the equipment that we need in the amount not to exceed $291,954 from our, the source of funds is the capital project, which you had approved previously.
Okay, moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. And for the public's knowledge, we had passed a bond for $900,000 previously, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And that was to change every one of the lights in the town of Ramapo to have the preemption safety equipment. I see we have members from the Feist Ambulance Corps here tonight. This would allow the Feist Ambulance Corps, all the ambulance corps, fire departments, and our police department as well, to be able to come to an intersection, press a button, all the lights on the three sides would turn red, and they would remain green in the direction they're traveling. We get a lot of people that may not be able to hear, or maybe on their cell phones, or listening to the radio, or and also there are times where the sight lines aren't good at an intersection, and they have a green light and they don't know that there's a vehicle, emergency vehicle coming. So I want to thank Mike Riley, as you mentioned, but I also want to thank Councilman Pat Withers, because he worked very hard and continued to work hard to get the intersections done on a timely basis. I know you've been working on the Highview intersection and College Road, and it's absolutely a fantastic program.
I just had one question.
Councilman Ullman.
Has the Attorney's Office seen the contract and approved it?
Merrill Trudeau, my office has reviewed the initial contracts, and that's how we proceed.
Thank you.
Okay, any comment, Pat?
Yeah, I would like to...
Councilman Withers.
This is actually, you're very kind, Mr. Supervisor, but this is your idea. Back 2 years ago, when I came on the board, you were kind to bring me on to this project with my law enforcement background. With your busy schedule and the day-to-day tasks of this demanding town, you asked me to join you and to help you in implementing this. It's come a long way. It's 2 years now. We're at the stage. I'd like to thank our town attorney's office and Teresa Reek as well. Again, you had mentioned Mike Riley, Sandy Howells, but it is a project that within the next few weeks, I would assume, Mike, that we could start seeing the Highview, some areas starting to see this, that the first responders like Feist and Muncie Fire Department and the Ramapo Police Department and the paramedics and the ambulance corps throughout our town, it will bring safety to them, responding to calls, and to safety to our residents who could be distracted nowadays in a lot of our vehicles that, quite frankly, when I was first learning to drive, there was an AM radio and that was it. But nowadays, it's a computer in every car that has a lot of distractions, especially for young drivers nowadays at 17, 18 years old, first getting their license. I think it is a tremendous step of public safety on your part, Mr. Supervisor. I was proud to be a part of that project, and I thank you for allowing me to come on that project, especially with my law enforcement background. And I could tell you that there is not one fire, police, or ambulance that are against it. They commend you on your initiative and your commitment to public safety to the residents of the town of Ramapo and to the county of Rockland, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman Withers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously.
Item 7B on the agenda is in reference to something that's very important to the town of Ramapo, and that's our golf course. We take a lot of pride in that, and a presentation was made at our workshop by our Parks and Recreation Department to accept a proposal in reference to the creation of score course booklets and scorecards. And we have had our town attorney review this, and the terms are listed in this resolution, and there is no cost to the town in reference to this. The agreement is for 5 years, but the town can relieve itself from the obligation after 2. We'll be receiving 20,000 scorecards, and the other details have been approved by our attorney's office. So we're asking you to accept this proposal as it's listed in the resolution.
Thank you very much.
You're
Moved
welcome.
by
Withers?
Councilman Withers, seconded by
Friedman.
Councilman Friedman. All those in favor, before we vote, I do want to thank Dan Colvert for working and getting this. It definitely is going to be a great thing for our golfers. I don't know if you mentioned, Mona, but they'll be coming out, they'll be lasering the course so that they'll know the exact distances from different areas. There will be overhead views of the course on each hole, and it will not cost the town anything. So I want to thank Dan for making that happen. And I think it's going to be on the, not just on that pamphlet, but also on the small little mini scorecard as well.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, did we move it and second it?
Yes.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, anybody in the public who would like to speak? Mr. Romanowski, come right up.
It's Robert Romanowski, 177 Maple Avenue, Muncie. First, in my forgetfulness of the last meeting we had in January, I forgot to welcome Brendel Logan to the town board, and I just hope that on your tenure in the board that you do your best to act in the best interest for the residents of the town of Ramapo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I want to speak out tonight is that at one point the town had established a no parking zone on the west side of Park Lane between Maple Avenue and Sunrise Drive. The no parking signs that were placed here have been removed, and parking has again commenced at this location. This is a narrow area, and there are cars parking there again. There are school buses that go through there. It's a street traveled by Transport of Rockland. Their Loop 1 bus travels through there. And with the cars parking there are continual conflicts with traffic going in the north and southbound direction. And I asked the town to take a look at this again. The poles where the signs were are still there, but the signs are missing. And I asked the town to go back and replace the signs and find out what is happening to these signs as to why they keep disappearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romanowski. Any other members of the public like to speak? Motion to close the public participation by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilwoman Logan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. Any council member comments?
Yes, I have some comments. Two.
Councilwoman Logan.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I just wanted to thank our Highway Superintendent, Tony Sharon. I had the opportunity on Saturday's snowstorm to go out on our Town of Ramapo snowplow and actually see what our highway workers do for the town to remove the snow and get us back on track so we can become mobile once again. And I think they're doing a great job, and I just wanted to thank Highway Superintendent Sharon for that opportunity, and anytime I can be of assistance to any of the residents during our snowstorm or any other emergency, please don't hesitate to call on myself or my colleagues, I'm sure, on the board. As well as I would like to speak about the media advisory that was released on the mulch. At the Spook Rock Pool, we have 100,000 cubic yards of mulch. and that is going to be made available to our town of Ramapo homeowners. Myself, the Supervisor St. Lawrence, as well as Highway Superintendent Tony Sharon, is available, and you can contact us at any time if you'd like any of this mulch. Again, this is only for the town of Ramapo homeowners, as well as the villages will contact us if they are in need of any mulch. The mulch is untreated. It is available at the Spook Rock Pool if you'd like to pick it up. If you call us and we have the availability to get the trucks out to you, we will bring it for free. Private landscapers are not eligible to participate, and we would like for you to only come to the Spook Rock Pool to pick up this mulch during daylight hours. That's 7:30 to 5:30. We do not want you to come in the evening. So for safety and security reasons, after-hour pickup is strictly forbidden, and violators will be prosecuted. But we are happy to be able to give this mulch out to the town residents, and if you have any questions, you can call 357-5100. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Councilwoman Logan. And just to follow up, just so I understand this correctly, the reasoning for this is that we don't want landscapers coming and taking this material and then charging our residents.
That's
we want our
correct.
residents to be able to get this for free.
Absolutely.
And we will help load up the vehicles for
Yes.
residents
Yes, we
if
will.
it's during those hours?
Yes.
And if senior citizens, we will find a way to
Yes, we
help
will
them out
accommodate
in
them.
particular.
Yes, we will.
Well, I know that that was one of the things that I asked you to do to deal with this over 100,000 cubic yards of material from the storm that hit us on October 29th to November 4th. And our highway department, as you said, our sewer department, our central garage, our parks and recreation department, our property management workers were all there working on this to bring this massive amount of material in. It's been chipped, and then it's been chipped again.
Yes.
And it is, I'm telling you, it's delicious. You go by there and take a look at it. It is really good stuff, and people are going to want to be able to utilize this. And there's no question that you have come up with some very innovative other ways to deal with this material and to get rid of this material. And one is to have a walkway, continuing the walkway from the St. Lawrence Center in Hilburn up to Sloatsburg, and utilizing this material as a pathway to kind of connect where we're working on our more formal bike trail
On our trails,
that
yes.
we're going to be putting in there. And you're also been reaching out, I know, with Councilman Withers on the Parks Department, and working on the golf course and other areas to be able to put this material. So residents ought to go out there and get this material now. It's a good time to put it down. It's a good time to feed all of your plants.
Yes.
And it is, you mentioned too, I think, that it's all organic material.
Yes, all organic and
Great.
free.
And organic and free. It's great. Great. Any other council member comments?
Just wanted again to thank the board. Tonight's going to be
I think I hear a voice.
Just wanted to thank the board again.
Councilman Ullman.
It's going to be an exciting night. We passed affordable housing. We passed the home law for the tax for new home buyers. I commend the board, even though we worked very hard on it, but when it came time, everyone did what they had to do, and we were able to get this done quickly. Unlike some other villages where certain individuals worked and things would just drag on and on and on, we were able to come as a government and do things quickly. So thank you.
Thank you. We have the Deputy Supervisor here. Would you like to make a report, Deputy Supervisor? I asked her if she would do this. She told me no, but she has reconsidered.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On Tuesday, I had the opportunity to attend a meeting over in Clarkstown that was held by the council, first of all, by all the supervisors from the 5 towns and the chief of police, as well as the chairman of the Rockland County Legislature, Mrs. Harriet Cornell. The topics that we discussed were all very interesting. There were other people there. I think the lawyer for the town of Clarkstown was there, and maybe a couple of other people. They were all very receptive to my being there, thank goodness for that, since the supervisor had invited me to attend. The main topic, believe it or not, was members of the NAACP were going to talk about police issues, racial profiling, We were sort of late getting started with that, but while we were waiting, there were other items on the agenda, the high tour, animal shelter, how the various supervisors felt about this as to whether or not we should all be trying to double up on the amount of money that we're giving to them, and maybe we should maybe outsizing it more or less to another county or seeing some other way to take care of the problem that we're having over at High Tor with the way it is being run now and the conditions of the building itself. The other item that was discussed was county issues, sales tax, mortgage tax, and that kind of thing, and the county drainage agency. As it turned out, the people who were there from the NAACP, Mr. Willie Trotman, who is president of the NAACP Spring Valley branch, and Wilbur Aldrich, who is the director, more or less, of the Mid-Hudson. And they also gave us, each of us, a copy of what is called the Racial Profiling Policy Statement. We talked about Ramapo Police Department and as well as the Spring Valley Police Department as to how many minorities they have in each of these departments and how others maybe can do things to increase the number of minorities that they have. I won't bore you right now with the breakdown, but we are doing very well, and so is Spring Valley. Of course, there are some towns that do not have minorities because they do not live in that area, so they'll have to do as much as they can of increasing the number of minorities that they have. But the thing is that we have to do something. I think Ramapo Police Department, as I've always said, is always ahead of the curve, ahead of the game, and doing things that others have not been able to do that we do, and when we do it well. So maybe we will probably be a part of this new racial policy statement that they have and make it better than what it is now. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor Hunter, and thank you for going there with me to that meeting. And sitting on the Police Commission, as one of the police commissioners with myself and Police Commissioner Withers, it was invaluable. And it was great to see that the Ramapo Police Department had put in this racial profiling back in 2002. And it was one of the efforts that we've done in this department to bring in Latino, Haitian, African American, men and women, Middle Eastern, Polish. We have a lot of languages that are the native tongue of our officers, and so it was a great day, I think, for our police department. Chief Brower was there with us, and we have a long discussion on the funding and the reimbursement of the final 20% of the monies that were taken away by the County of Rockland. And we were going to continue to have detailed meetings about the sales tax and how the towns and the villages with the police departments should be sharing in that, and I'll open that up to the other members of the board when we have some of those meetings. I know, Pat, we've had a lot of discussions about it, and when we have that next meeting with the county, I will ask any council members that may want to join me in that discussion with the county executive and the chairwoman of the legislature, Harriet Cornell.
Thank you.
I want to just close tonight, again commenting on what Councilman Ullman has done on this effort. As Councilman Friedman said, this was an effort on this accessory apartments, on the modulars, and on the Bates and Horton subdivision. These were items that have been worked on for a long time, but you really did a wonderful job bringing it to fruition. I want to thank Councilwoman Logan as well, both on the planning board and now on the town board, for making that happen. Because the one thing that we know in the town of Ramapo, we are a very diverse town. We have a lot of different needs in the town, but housing is one of our incredible need and one that we want to be able to address. And with that, I have to tell you that I have a mazel tov to me. We had our first birth at Elm Street.
Oh.
Yes.
Congratulations.
So we've had 26 families have moved in, started in December, and we had our first birth last Friday. I hope to be there at the bris, which should be, I think this probably be Friday, or if it falls on a Saturday, it would be 8 days. So what if it falls on the Sabbath, it would. So I've requested the detail of Friday, not Friday. I don't know whether it was a morning or night.
Those nights, Saturdays was morning Friday.
So I will let you keep you, give you the knowledge on that. But, it's true that we have just about a wedding, or maybe even two. I think I know Chris performs more weddings here in this town hall than anywhere in the state, without a doubt. And multicultural, and with the new marriage equality law, you just cover the entire gambit. But we do have one or two weddings every night in the Muncie area. We have this incredible need for housing, and especially Yingalat housing, and it's important that we keep up the zoning code to match the needs of this town. And that's what we've done tonight, and I want to say mazel tov to all of you. All right. Now I will give my supervisor's report. The clapping stopped, Pat. This is a great night. I want to thank everybody for all their work. I want to, again, Heather, you stayed for the entire meeting. You've broken the rhythm here, the past practice. Usually people get hired and they're the first one out waving out the door, but we really want to welcome you again.
We have golden gloves if you want.
And we do have the Golden Gloves, the Daily News Golden Gloves at the Joseph T. St. Lawrence Center. That will be this Saturday, and I want everybody to come on down. You get the tickets at the door, and there are going to be some great bouts there. And Councilwoman Logan wants to remind us about the auto show. At Rockland Community College, and that is on Sunday.
Friday, Saturday.
That is on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This weekend, the auto show at Rockland Community College. Motion to adjourn the meeting.
Withers?
Moved by Councilman Withers, seconded by Councilman Ullman. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries unanimously. We're adjourned. Thank you.